right, it is a little later than we expected, but we are here.
Man.
Finally, we are here. Welcome in, everybody, to the Gem City Sports Podcast. We are live tonight from Engine House 39 in Edinburgh, where we are doing our first ever live podcast. And as Jonathan Williams and I have noted in the last few minutes here, sometimes technology doesn't always work for you. Sometimes it does. But we're happy to be live. We're happy to be a part of this amazing atmosphere, Jonathan. And we're excited, nonetheless, to talk about what we typically talk about on a Thursday night. We're, of course, going to be talking about the General McLean Meadville game, which we'll have highlights of that one coming up in just a little bit. We're, of course, going to be talking about NFL week number 6 and some of the predictions that come there. And we'll get to those highlights that we're showing you on your screen in a second. And we'll also talk a little bit some of the high school football season in week number 8 with some big games coming up. But although we're late, it's just exciting to be here, my friend.
Yeah, man. You know, this is, like I told you off air, this is the live podcasting experience, you know. It's a lot going on, but I'm glad to be here. And if anything else, it gave us a little bit of time to warm up. You know, we were out there freezing just a little bit. So it's good to be here and ready to kick it off.
Did indeed. And as we came on the air tonight, Jonathan and I were in the cold just at Linden Field across the street and getting a chance to take in General McLean Meadville, the game that coming into tonight we expect and still expect to be the District 10 4A championship game with respect to Oil City and Franklin, who are competitive teams, but General McLean and Meadville are really the two teams that are the crux of what we expect to be here. And what a game it was. We're going to do the highlights in a second, Jonathan, but I think the one thing for sure in this game that we realized coming out of the night tonight is we'd love to see these two teams play again in 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, you know, this matchup was, I think it was a lot tighter of a matchup than people gave it credit for and people thought it was going to be, but hats off to Meadville. Meadville came out and played. Like, Meadville played this team tougher than I think they've been played since week 1 this season. So hats off to those guys, and they gave GM a fight, and they gave GM a game, and it was a game all the way down to about the last minute of the game. So great matchup, and I can't wait to get into these highlights so we can break some of this down.
All right, let's not waste any time. Let's get into said highlights here as we roll along on our live show. We're going to have live guests throughout the way. Make sure that you follow us, you like, subscribe to our channel. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, X, wherever you get your podcasts. And we got a couple of cool things coming up with some potential guests as well. So let's show you how exactly it went down tonight. And we start with the Lancers' first drive of the game. This is Isaac Zeitz to Teague Berger, 6 yards, 7-0 Lancers on the first drive of the game. Then we go to the early second quarter. It's 4th and goal for Meadville. It had already been stopped in the red zone today, but they get the touchdown here. Jordan Lawrence finding the end zone, 2-point no good, so it's 7-6. Then GM goes to the air. Zeitz to Jared Corwin. How about that one-handed catch for the touchdown?
Yeah, man. That's a play, an athletic grab from an athletic kid. He made a couple of those plays tonight.
Then Meadville strikes back. Third quarter, they're down 14-6 at the half. Lawrence takes it in. That would tie the game at 14 after the 2-point conversion. Then ZZ Top gets going. Isaac to Jacob, his first big catch of the day. Next play, he's off and running for the 45-yard touchdown.
3rd and 20 was what that long catch was on. 3rd and 20, then they go hurry up, come right back with a quick screen, and I got to see my first taste of ZZ Top in person.
21-14, we go to the 4th after a missed field goal from Meadville. Corwin to the Wildcat, his second touchdown, 28-14. Then check this out. Late in the 4th, it's 4th and 18 for Meadville. How in the world does Jacoby Thompson scramble out of this and find Landon Carter for 6?
You know, the scramble itself, great athletic play, but on the back end for GM, plaster, scramble drill, find the body. They didn't do it and got behind them. So
Isaac Zeitz ending the game with a touchdown run, and it's General McLean taking it 35-27 as they take down Meadville tonight. And what was, as we recap this game, Jonathan, I think from my perspective, it was a couple of things. It was the adjustments by General McLean in the second half. The offense didn't look very good in the first half. And to be quite frank, I think we'll talk a little bit about this. I don't know if either team really was showing much in the first half. I think the big problem that we saw from the Lancer offense, it was a lot of quick throws, a lot of run game. I know they wanted to get to it, but I think in the second half, GM opened things up a little bit. They were a little bit more aggressive on offense, and I think ultimately what it did is it opened up the run game to be more effective. I also think, too, for the Lancer offense, and let's start with this, Jacob Zeitz was not a big factor tonight, just one touchdown, had one really big catch. Other than that, largely in check, but GM still put up 35 points against a stingy Meadville defense.
Yeah, offensively for GM, all season long they've been an explosive offense. They've been a big play offense, and they take shots. They go deep down the field. That connection between the Zeitz brothers is always lethal on long passes, but they didn't really get to that very often in the first half. I got to the game a little bit late and saw the first deep pass from what I was told from multiple people on the sideline of the game deep into the second quarter. So they kind of got away from what they do a little bit in the first half, and it showed. You go into halftime, what was it, 14-6 going into halftime? Not a typical dominating performance like you would expect from this GM offense, at least in the first half. Second half, they open things up, start taking shots, and all of a sudden now the scoreboard starts lighting up a little bit. Yeah. As far as Jacob Zeitz not having as much production on offense, what he didn't have on offense, he made up for on defense. 2 interceptions today, all over the field, and matched up on their number one receiver for most of the night at corner. When he wasn't, he was that last-minute defense at safety and made a couple touchdown-saving tackles at safety as well. So he might not have been the biggest name on offense tonight like he's used to being, but defensively he definitely came in clutch.
And speaking of defensively, we got to bring in our man here because he was getting on us because we had a little bit of technical issues because Wayne Bradford is the man at that at Erie Insurance. But he's joining us here on this podcast. It's a cool setup, right?
Outstanding, yes. Let's do it every week.
Well, for that, we have to make sure that the technology actually works. Maybe you can be our guy.
Okay.
All right, well, let's talk the defense from your perspective, Wayne, because so Meadville comes out. I don't think either team was really showing much in the first half. The offenses were somewhat anemic in terms of what they were presenting. Second half, the defenses, I think for you guys, stepped up outside of those 2 fourth-down plays. What do you make of the game? GM Meadville may play again coming up in a few weeks. What do you make of the game tonight just from your coaching perspective?
Yeah, hats off to Coach Collins. Has a great program at Meadville. A disciplined team. Play with great toughness. It's hard to defend the wing T.
Yeah.
And if you can hold, the wing T to 1 score in the first half, we had 2 critical red zone stops. And then really, we gave up 13 points in the first 3 quarters. Gave up the 1 big play in the third quarter, the pass on 3rd and 8. And then, in the fourth quarter, the 2 Hail Mary or 4th down plays, which were just broken plays, great plays by their quarterback. And that's on us not, practicing to Jonathan's point on the sideline scramble drill, right? So it's very hard to defend the wing T and be disciplined and defend the run, and then go into 4 wide and play, a nickel. So we knew coming in we had to defend the run, and the only way you get them into 4 wide is if you're up by 2 scores.
Sure.
So the last one was tipped. You got to knock the ball down, and the 4th and 28 was just great play by the young man. The quarterback made 2 outstanding plays, but our kids played with great effort, and Meadville's kids played with great effort. So you couldn't ask for more in a de facto regional championship game.
Yeah, and we may see this game again in the D10 title. I mean, you've been coaching plenty in this area for a long time. What about the wing T is so hard to defend? Because, GM, prior to Marshall McCormick, ran it. A lot of teams ran it. LaBeouf did. Meadville still runs it. Just from a defensive coordinator perspective, why is it so hard to defend against the wing T?
Misdirection, 3 backs, pulling guards.
Yeah.
Tight end wing surface is hard to defend. That spacing there. So if you don't know what you're doing, you can get exposed really quickly.
Sure.
I'm very fortunate that I played in the wing T in high school. I played in the wing T at college at Salisbury. So I feel like we have an idea of where to be, but you still have to, execute. And Meadville did a great job tonight, condensing splits, cracking the overhang, their guards deep pull, changing up the way they block the 9 technique. But they know what they're doing. So it's, I like in football coaching to take in the SAT 9 or 10 times a year. and you take a 3-hour exam.
Yeah.
The only difference is everybody can see whether you pass or fail.
Sure.
So that's the great part about coaching and playing football.
I get that analogy, and I'm scared to death, Jonathan. You got something, for
Coach. Now we're starting to get into that like crunch time. You got prep next week, and then now we start looking ahead. We're looking at D10 championship. We're looking at playoffs. How important are these type of matchups that kind of stress your defense and kind of you have to play, like we were talking about playing in the and living in the shallow end, and now this was a deep end type of game. How important are those deep end games for your defense going forward, just knowing that they can stand up to the task against a team that can test them?
Yeah, I mean, the best thing that's happened to us is playing Corey, playing LaBeouf, playing Meadville 3 of the last 4 weeks, and being challenged physically, and being challenged mentally, and passing those and winning 2 of those 3 on the road, and dethroning the champs, being the challenger, and we'll face them again probably, and we'll have to play better and clean some things up. But that'll be great. I have not in my short high school career had to play a team twice, so obviously we wanted to win tonight to get the number 1 seed. If D10 puts 4 teams or 3 teams or however that goes out, I just say hats off to our community, hats off to General McLean, hats off to Marshall McCormick. 3 years in, 2 region championships. Can't say enough about the work that Marshall, Zach, Kyle, Cam, Nate, all those guys do. And I said it afterwards. I was pretty emotional after the game.
Yeah.
To let an old guy,
Coach Balza, by the way, was getting on you for saying you get sentimental after every game.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think it was a fine speech.
Well, at 56 years of age, I treasure every minute because when's it over?
Yeah.
I'm closer to the end of my career than the beginning of the career. So I'm grateful every day to be able to be there. And, I haven't had this much fun in 30, 40 years. When you spend your time, and Jonathan knows this as a college football coach, it consumes you. It becomes your identity. I lost Wayne Bradford. I was Coach Bradford. Now I'm just the IT supervisor, 37 and a half hours a week. Get to show up at practice and, do what I love for 90 minutes a day. And, and in a place that appreciates me and that I certainly appreciate very much.
This is the outlet for Coach Bradford, and hopefully this podcast network's an outlet for it too. Hey, well, we got you. We haven't had a chance to talk NFL. You've got 3 local teams on 2-game losing streaks each. Give us the team that you think is the best chance to rebound this week. You got the Steelers in Vegas, the Bills Monday night against the Jets, the Browns are the Browns, and they just continue to struggle. Which team do you think is the best chance to get out of their slump?
Yeah, I think Buffalo, because I think Buffalo has the most talent.
Yeah.
And they're playing the Jets, who are in disarray. Is that who you said?
Yeah, Jets.
So you fire your coach. Robert Saleh is a good man, and very interesting move.
Yeah.
You hear rumors that Woody Johnson was really enraged because he was the ambassador to England and all his buddies were there. So Jonathan again knows this. Making an emotional decision in week 5 versus a rational decision, and you promote the guy that Robert Saleh brought there. He's trying to make his mark by demoting the offensive coordinator. So the Jets are either going to play very inspired or very uninspired.
Yeah.
But I would think that Buffalo and Sean McDermott would have the best chance to right the ship.
And the Browns, by the way, play the Eagles. Not an easy matchup. And then Pittsburgh, who knows who the starting quarterback is going to be coming up. Hey, enjoy yourself tonight. It's good stuff. And pass some of that food over, by the way, because we want to thank Engine House for having us tonight. And they actually gave us some pretty darn good food. And if I don't feed Jonathan, I'm going to feel really, really bad because of all the crap I put him through. You want one of these?
You know what? If you're going to offer...
So these over here, by the way. These are some of the specials that Engine House offers here. These are their fiery fall seasonal wings. It's their apple cinnamon hot wings. You're putting the veggies in front of me. Like that. Look at me. Do I look like the dude who's going to eat the veggies? That's Jonathan's the one.
Well, I
who's
don't want
gonna-
to not give the wings to Jonathan either. So,
So these are the.
pass me a little plate so I don't
Yeah,
get it all
yeah.
over your laptop.
Oh, it's fine. It's happened before. So by the way, as we're eating, like I said, Fiery Fall apple cinnamon hot wings. Jonathan's got the smokehouse burger and some good fries, and then we got a cool drink over here. I'm on the job, so I'm not going to drink it. A spiked apple cider. My wife would love this, by the way. So make sure you check all these things out. We got food and everything going on. What do you say? What do you rate the right wings?
2 thumbs up.
No response needed from Wayne. He's got everything good. I'm okay. I'm gonna put these carrots and celery and blue cheese over here because, I know we gotta be healthy at some point, but that's not tonight, and then that's after a win. So thanks again for being with us here. You're watching the Gem City Sports Podcast. It's our first ever live podcast here from Engine House 39 Edinburgh after GM beats Meadville 35-27. One more while we got you here, Wayne. We talked about Buffalo and their chance to get out of things. If you're Pittsburgh, with the starting quarterback dilemma, who do you go with Russ? Do you go with Justin? Is it a defense thing? What's the concern for Pittsburgh right now as to why they've lost 2 straight?
Well, you can't get behind and play from behind. Pittsburgh is not built to play from behind. Pittsburgh is built to play from the front, run the football, play great defense.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter who the quarterback is when you're down 17-0, right? So now Vegas is in a little bit of flux as well,
they're
right?
starting a new quarterback too.
Devontae Adams, Mac Crosby.
Yeah.
Where do they want to be?
Right.
And they're benching Minshew.
Yeah.
So, I think the best thing for Pittsburgh is they're playing away from home, so the distractions at home are away, right? And, I think Pittsburgh beats the Raiders, plays great defense, gets back in the win column. Russell Wilson is a proven winner, but he better be healthy. You better not put him out there when he's not healthy. And, you can't blame Justin Fields, for the injuries at offensive line and the lack of production, at different places. So, it's the NFL was a tough business. Parity is alive. There really are, 2 to 3 great teams in each conference, I think. You've got Kansas City and you've got Houston.
Right.
And in the NFC, you've got Minnesota.
Detroit, maybe.
And Detroit.
Yeah.
Washington Commanders out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Doing a great job. But there are very few dominant teams right now in the NFL. So, it's a toss-up every week, I think.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jonathan.
For me, it's like if you're looking at Pittsburgh, we didn't expect Pittsburgh to be great in the beginning of the season. They kind of over exceeded expectations in the first 3 weeks of the game. So when you drop 2, it kind of puts them back where we thought they were going to be at to begin with. So it's not really a cause for panic for me. And honestly, Justin Fields has not looked bad even in their losses. You could argue that his game against Dallas was probably the worst game that he's played this season, but even still, it's not a terrible performance for him. He hasn't done anything in my eyes that would risk his job. I said after week 1 or 2, Justin Fields is the starting quarterback of this team until he plays himself out of that role. I don't feel like he's done that to this point, and I think this is a good week for them to get a bounce-back win, kind of get back on track and get that ball rolling back in the right direction.
I agree. And again, I think you have to put into perspective, too. When has Mike Tomlin ever started a season well? I mean, this is a second end part of the season running coach. So we'll see. I think Pittsburgh's still in an okay spot. Buffalo, of course, still leads the division at 3-2. Cleveland's a mess. We'll talk about them when they seem to be relevant again. Your Ravens look like world beaters, by the way. And so does Seattle. I don't even know what the Seahawks score is right now. Are they up?
It's 23-17 it was. They were down, so they returned a kickoff for a touchdown.
Oh.
So they were down 16-0. It was 23-17. For some reason, we don't have Amazon Prime here to watch the game. I don't have an update past that.
So you got to get home, is what you're saying.
No, I'm not getting home tonight. I think I'm staying out. I took off work tomorrow.
There you go.
My youngest is en route from NC State. He flew in from NC State
great.
Tonight, so my wife had to leave the game and pick him up in Cleveland, so they're on their way home. So I hope they make it safely. I haven't seen him since mid-August. So I took off work tomorrow because I knew I was going to have a game tonight, and I knew my son was coming home, and I knew I had the Gem City podcast tonight, and maybe a Gem City podcast tomorrow at some time. So if you'll have me, I'm available.
I was going to say, you get a Friday off. If you're interested, we're going to have you.
I'm always interested.
All right, so, Wayne Bradford's officially joining us on the pod tomorrow, folks.
Outstanding.
So he's watching the magic happen live.
This is live and in real action. Hey, man, good stuff tonight.
Okay, thank you.
We'll see you later.
All right.
Guess grab some more wings on your way out.
No, it's good.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. That's Wayne Bradford, GM's defensive coordinator, our football aficionado. He doesn't ever take a break, but he's going to get one tomorrow. Good stuff from Wayne. As we bring it back here, Jonathan, we'll move the wings out of the way. I don't know if live guests are going to keep joining us, but it's always fun when we're here. Good stuff. Once we got on the ground and running, it's been a good podcast so far. We're going to talk more NFL in a second, but I do want to talk a little bit more about the games coming up tomorrow from high school football and a couple of really good ones. And the one I want to focus on in particular is the one that realistically could be for a top 3 or 4 seed, potentially in Class 3A, and that's Corey visiting Fairview at Jack Beswick Stadium tomorrow night. How about the Tigers? They lose Vinny Campoli. It's not a good injury, let's just put it that way. So you're dealing with a backup quarterback. You're dealing with an offense that doesn't have that star to be able to push them through, but the defense has looked magical in the last few weeks, and now they face Corey with Nick Lesher, Nolan Carey, the talent in the backfield. Intriguing game tomorrow night, just given the parameters of Corey, who can score the ball, and Fairview's defense, who's been the best arguably in District 10 over the last few weeks.
Yeah, Coach Sobolewski had that impassioned speech after their win against Fort LaBeouf last week. And the theme of the speech was, this defense has been good all year, and it's about time we start respecting this defense. They're going to get a chance to prove that and more in this matchup against Corey. Corey's offense can put up points. They can score, and they can score at will. But this defense is the strength of this Fairview team right now, especially with being down their leader and Vinny Campoli. This defense has to lead the charge, and we said this last week, and it's going to be the case for the rest of the season. They're going to have to lead the way, and it starts next week. It starts tomorrow against a really high-powered Corey offense. So it's going to be a fun showdown, and it's going to be exciting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, and I also think, too, for this Corey team, a team that when you look at their schedule, they've beaten the teams they're supposed to beat. But I feel like they're in the category of there's another level that Corey can get to. I think when you look at Carey and Lesher in the backfield and their ability to be able to control the offense with a run game. But I also think this is a Beaver team that likes to try to take the top off the football. I don't know if Jeff Goodwill has been able to figure out the offensive identity yet for this Beaver team, quite frankly, because they have a lot of weapons and they have a lot of guys who can make big plays. But I also think maybe this is the game where you can get it going. Keep in mind, too, Corey's a great road team. They're 4-0 on the road this season. The losses that they have this year to Fort LaBeouf, to General McLean, 2 losses at home. And for the Beavers, chance to go into Fairview, the writing on the wall. You win this game, you have a chance to share the region title. And for the Tigers, you win this game, you clinch at least a share. I just think it's going to be 2 contrasting styles. And for me, if it's low scoring, I think Fairview wins it. And if it gets over 21, I think it's going to probably be Corey who takes it home.
Yeah, I think Corey definitely has the advantage if this game turns into a shootout. And this is a chance for their offense to kind of put it all together. We know they can be explosive. We know they have weapons. We know they have playmakers. But this is their opportunity to really put together a complete performance for 4 quarters. Don't forget, this same Corey team gave GM a run for their money a few weeks ago. So this team can be a really dangerous team. It can be a really dangerous offense. And it's kind of like a battle of titans as far as Fairview's defense versus Corey's offense. And whoever wins that battle is going to win the game.
Keep in mind, too, that there are a lot more high school games going on this upcoming Friday, too, and Week 8 is one that can be critical for playoff positioning and for region implications. Mercyhurst Prep Iroquois is another one that flies under the radar. I talked to Manny Johnson a little bit when he was at the Mercyhurst Prep game scouting a bit last week. I think this Iroquois team is one that, of course, they had the forfeit that they were required to give the game early in the season because of ineligible players. But, when when you look at this Braves squad, I think it starts Up front, I think the offensive line has played a lot better, but I think the Braves are a team that defensively have gotten a lot better too. They run as their offense runs with some of the weapons they have on the outside, and I think as good as Vinny Feliciano is, Royce Prep's going to be tested tomorrow night.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough test for them, and you got to remember this Iroquois team has that. Their record doesn't look as good as it should look. They had a game taken from them by way of an ineligible player, so they had a game taken from them and a loss put on their schedule. So when you look at their record isn't what it really is, if that makes any sense. This is going to be an evenly matched game, and it's going to be a good matchup and a good test for Mercedes Prep, who has been rolling as of late. Vinny Feliciano has been a stud, but can he continue to carry this team? Can he continue to string together dominant performances on the ground as he has to this point in the season? If Iroquois can stop them, they have a really good shot at winning this game. If Vinny can get going and if he can have the effect on games that he's had to this point, it's going to be Mercedes Prep.
By the way, we got the Godfather reference in there that Nick Artman likes to have for Vinny Feliciano. Also should probably play the ZZ Top one when we go back through the highlights. Because although that combination wasn't extremely effective tonight, it still scored a touchdown in the GM win against Meadville. Once again, you're watching the Gem City Sports Podcast on our network. We are live tonight in person from Engine House 39 in Edinburgh, and we hope to do more of these in the future. I'll tell you what, despite the technology issues and maybe the loudness of the crowd, this is what it is. Like, this is the exciting part of what we do, getting a chance to go through the games, show you exactly, what we do, and then getting a chance to go live and with the public here. There's still a good amount of people here. This place was packed to the gillies about 15, 20 minutes ago. And, again, I may be biased as a homer, as a GM guy, but, I'll just make this point, and those who, if you're watching, you know who you are. There seems to be, I guess, maybe a misconception that local sports don't necessarily matter. Like, if you don't take this in and get an idea of what it means to the Erie area, I don't really know what to tell you. I mean, this has been a great atmosphere.
Man, I've been going on my Erie tour of local high schools and just catching and taking in a lot of these games at a lot of these different schools. And the one thing that you've seen at every school that I've been to so far is community support.
Yeah.
These games matter. This sport matters. These sports matter to these communities and these small towns, and they come out and they support their teams in droves. Like you said, this wasn't even like the biggest GM crowd that we're going to see for the rest of the season, and the stands are still full. The stands are still packed, 40 degrees, it doesn't matter. These people show up for these kids, and these games are important to these communities and these towns. So if you don't think local sports matters, I don't know what to tell you, because if you ask anybody that's sitting in here right now, they'll tell you how much it matters.
And by the way, speaking of local, Furman's is partnering with this drink, and it's pretty awesome. Although if I drink the whole thing, I may not be able to make it through the end of this podcast, so we're going to set that aside for now. Let's talk NFL, Jonathan, and then we'll wrap up with a little bit more of GM Meadville. Thursday traditionally is our prediction show. We predict the 3 NFL games. And coming into this week, 5 weeks into the season, we talked a little bit about it with Wayne Bradford, but every single regional team is riding 2-game losing skids. Let's start with the team that lost the game to Dallas on Sunday night in the Pittsburgh Steelers. Before we predict the game against the Raiders, I just want to get your thoughts. Me personally, I feel it's this. I don't think Justin Fields has been bad enough to warrant being benched. I think if you look at Pittsburgh, the issues that they've had, number one, have been on defense. They've given up 8 and then 9 third-down conversions in back-to-back games. It's been above 50% in their 2 losses. Defense can't get off the field on third downs. And then I look at the wide receiver room, whether it's George Pickens mouthing off and not catching footballs, whether it's the run game that can't get it going. I'm not saying that Justin Fields is inept from blame, but I also think that there have been a lot of supporting pieces that haven't necessarily been helpful to him in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, you got George Pickens, who's kind of struggled as of late.
Yeah,
it's been slim, catch this, pickings for finding guys to throw the football to right now, and finding weapons to utilize on the outside. That's why everybody keeps clamoring for Pittsburgh to make a move and go grab another receiver.
Yeah.
So for whatever you want to make of Justin Fields' worst performance, quote unquote, worst performance last week, there's a lot more underneath the surface with that offense that's going on. Their offensive line is banged up. There's a lot of things going on that are detrimental to quarterback play, and still Fields has handled all of that as well as I feel like you can expect him to. So I'm not down on Justin Fields at all. I think this is going to be a bounce-back game for him. And as long as he can protect the football, there's no reason why Justin Fields should not be the starter of this football team right now.
To me, it's going to be defense. I think, as good as this defense had been bought up and talked about early in the season, they can't get off the field on third downs. And what's concerning to me is if you take away Deshaun Elliott, no member of that secondary has looked good, and that includes Minkah Fitzpatrick, who is not looking like the highly paid second safety in the league, one of the highest in the league that you paid him to be. I think Patrick Queen is a concern for me in pass coverage. They're a little banged up, of course, with Alex Highsmith. Nick Herbig, of course, goes down. So now you have to find guys in the middle of that defense, whether it's Landon Roberts or others, that can step up and make plays. So getting off the field on third down is going to be big for me. I also think, too, the run game's got to get going. I mean, Arthur Smith was brought into Pittsburgh so that they could run the football better. Najee Harris has looked invisible. Jalen Warren's been hurt, and so you don't have that next guy that you can use as a tandem back. So I think ultimately for the Steelers, they're going to be okay, but it is concerning when you look at the storyline they want to be Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, yet I think it's really been the other pieces around the team, to your point, that have been a big concern for Pittsburgh, and so we'll see exactly how they pan out with that. But I think it's going to be an intriguing game Sunday, and if they do lose this one, I think the alarm bells are ringing. I'll pick the game first. I do think Pittsburgh bounces back and win because they've already had their trap game. They lost to Indianapolis. 24-20 is my final. I just don't think Pittsburgh has the offensive firepower to blow out teams. I do think Justin Fields will have a bounce-back game, a couple of touchdown tosses. I've got Pittsburgh in this one, 24-22.
I'm going to agree with you as far as going with Pittsburgh. I think this is going to be the game for Justin Fields to have kind of a I told you so type of game, or kind of like a prove it game. So I'm going Pittsburgh. I'm going to go similar on the score side. I'm going to go 27-17.
Sorry, bad time for me to get a bite of food. Time for Buffalo. You wonder, I was at practice on Wednesday, and I think there's a bit of an understanding, just from my perspective with Sean McDermott, that coaching has been an issue the last couple of weeks. I think for McDermott, he hasn't been at his best, and Joe Brady hasn't been at his best on offense. Why is Buffalo struggling now offensively all of a sudden after having 3 weeks where they looked like they were better than vintage McBrady and Mahomes?
Well, one, it's hard to get things going offensively, especially in the pass game, when as a quarterback you're being moved off your spot nearly every play. They got to do a better job of protecting Josh Allen. They've got to do a better job of picking up pressures and picking up some of the things that different defensive coordinators are throwing at them. Because if you watch their last game, Josh Allen is under duress a lot. He's having to evade the pocket a lot. And while that's something that he's good at doing, and it's something that he makes some crazy plays while he's on the run or while he's within, a yard of the sideline, that's not how you want to live for the duration of an entire football game. And it got to the point where they were living like that last week, and it wound up burning them. As far as overall coaching, do less. Less is more in certain situations. When you have the ball backed up against your own goal line and there's 20, 30 seconds left on the clock, run the football, run the clock out. Don't give the other team an opportunity to come down and kick a game-winning field goal by throwing 3 straight incompletions and basically calling timeouts for them. It's simple things that it feels like are being overthought and overdone out in Buffalo, where if they just go back to keeping things simple, being creative on offense, of course, but protect the quarterback, make good clock management decisions as a coaching staff, take pressure off of your guys, take pressure off of Josh Allen, and things will go back to the way they were. I just feel like they've been pressing a little bit offensively and as a staff, and it showed the last week.
Jets coming up on Monday night. There were a lot of questions asked in practice about you fire a coach next week with an interim. Maybe that team has a bit more juice and energy, right? They want to rally around the head coach because, the saying goes, look, easier to fire a coach than it is to fire 53 players, and I think the Jets have underperformed through 5 weeks. Jeff Ulbrich comes in there as the new interim head coach, as Wayne Bradford talked about. Ironically, the guy that Saleh brought in before he was eventually fired. I think for the Bills, and you mentioned a lot of going back to the simple things. I think simple is running the football. And James Cook has been banged up with a bit of an injury on the lower half of his body. Not sure if he's going to be able to go. I think Ty Johnson and Ray Davis are going to be able to carry the load one way or another. I think for the Bills, they did such a good job in the first 3 weeks of getting the running backs involved in the passing game, and they did it with jet motion. They did it with wheel routes. I mean, things that you can just get guys out of the backfield, quick 3-5 yard routes, and they make plays. And that helped the wide receivers not feel the pressure. I don't think Buffalo's got a number one, as we talked about. I think it's been exacerbated in the last 2 weeks, mainly because of the concerns directly around the lack of production, say, from the running back. So I think Buffalo's got to get back to that. Big chance coming up against the New York Jets in a game that I think is a must-win for them, and really a must-win for the Jets, too. Buffalo wins this, 2-game losing streaks in the rearview mirror, right? You're 4-2. You've got at least a 2.5-game lead on the division, depending on how other things shake out. And so it's going to be a huge game at MetLife Stadium on Monday night. Jonathan, your pick. It's an intriguing one with all the storylines, but who do you think wins it?
Well, I think the Jets are going to come out and fight hard. You got Sauce Gardner basically saying that they're still playing for Robert Saleh on that defensive side of the ball. I think the Jets are going to come out juiced, and they're going to give him a battle early. I just don't think New York has enough to keep up. If Buffalo plays the way they played in the first 3 weeks of the season, and they play consistently for 4 quarters, I don't think the Jets have enough to keep up. So I'm going Buffalo. I'm going to go 35-24.
Wow. It's interesting because I have this as a low-scoring game. I commend you for the offensive prediction because I do think Buffalo, if they want to win games, their offense is going to have to make some big plays, right? I mean, the defense is getting better. Who knows how healthy Terrell Bernard really was last week in the Texans game. He wasn't very effective. And the secondary still hasn't been up to par either. I think Buffalo wins the game, but I think it's going to be ugly. I think it's more of a 17-14 sort of a game, maybe a late field goal by Tyler Bass, who's got to get back on track himself. I just think with the way that the Jets have played, their defense is good enough to keep them in games, but it's like Pittsburgh, right? The offense is only going to score 1 or 2 touchdowns a game, and I think at the end of the day, I don't know if Buffalo's going to be able to score more than 2 or 3 touchdowns against that Jets defense. So I'll go 17-14, Buffalo wins in a slugfest and probably a boring game to watch, but if you're a defensive guy like yourself, you're going to probably be a big fan of it. So we both have the Bills winning. We both have the Steelers winning. Now let's go to Cleveland. Can you illustrate, Jonathan? We always say Deshaun Watson's the problem, and he is, right? He's got plenty of issues himself. But you've been in, I'm sure, locker rooms before where the mojo's not great, you're losing games, you're not playing well, and maybe that there are players that aren't in the right positions to succeed. What's the mindset in the Browns locker room right now? Because it just doesn't seem like anybody is excited to go out there and motivate themselves to play.
It's one of 2 things. Either right now you got a lot of guys that are in the tank and kind of mailing it in because they think the season is a wash because it hasn't started the way that they had hoped for it to start or they had envisioned it starting. Or you've got guys that are saying all we need is 1 game. All we need is 1 win. All we need is 1 positive moment to kind of snowball and start building this thing back in the right direction. And how many of those guys you have on your team versus the guys that go in the tank determines the type of roster you have and the type of season you're going to have going forward. If those guys going in the tank outnumber the guys that are keeping a positive mindset and just saying, okay, let's just take it 1 game at a time and let's just get 1, it's going to be a long year. It's been a rough start. It's been a rough go of it. And right now, Cleveland is Cleveland to the NFL right now. The Browns are the Browns right now. And those guys hear that. Those guys see all of the stuff in the media. Those guys see all the stories and the way that people are talking about them as a team. So if you have any sort of pride, you have to go out there and you have to fight. If you have any sort of pride whatsoever, you cannot go out there and roll over and lay over and especially not sell your quarterback out. We've seen a couple different plays where Deshaun Watson didn't make a bad play. In fact, he made great plays. Put balls in right in the breadbasket, per se. and hit receivers in stride, hit receivers in the chest, hit receivers in the hands, and they're not making the catch. It's simple things like that. It's stuff like that that kind of builds, and it hurts. It starts to build up that sense of we can't do anything right. So if you're Cleveland, you got to go back to making the simple plays, bail your quarterback bail him out as often as possible, and just try to string together good plays. When you string together good plays, you string together good drives. You string together good drives. You string together good quarters.
Yeah.
When you put together good quarters, you win games.
I agree. And, I think at some point, and whether this is an Andrew Berry decision or a Kevin Stefanski decision, you have to come out and you have to, even if you don't tell the public, you have to tell the locker room, look, this is what X wants, whether it is Berry, whether it's Jimmy Haslam, and say, it's not my fault. We have to deal with it. Let's embrace it. Because to me, the thing that has been the biggest question is, who is wanting Deshaun Watson to stay at quarterback? I don't think it's Kevin Stefanski, because I think his offense has had to completely change. But that, to me, is the mental part of the locker room has to be, we know this guy doesn't give us the best chance to win. We know that he's not putting us in position to win games, yet he's going to be starting no matter what. And I think that's something that should be worrisome, especially given the fact that, look, this Cleveland team is damn talented. They've got the guys. Their defense was tops in the league last year at home. And then you look at their offense and you say, okay, Amari Cooper's having a down year. Is that because Deshaun's not getting him the ball? Is it because of the potential trade rumors that happened in the offseason? David Njoku's been hurt. We'll see if he becomes a factor if and when he comes back. Nick Chubb's been hurt, but I don't know if Nick Chubb is going to be an answer on offense. I just don't know if the way that this offense is constructed around Deshaun, if it's going to be enough to get you in a position to win games. So Cleveland's 1-4. They've got Philadelphia this week. I'm going to make my pick now. I don't think they're going to win this game. The Eagles are coming in not on the greatest of terms, but they're likely going to get either A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith back, or maybe they get them both back. I think playing at that environment, and Deshaun hasn't proven he can win on the road. So I've got the Eagles winning this game. I think it's 27-13, and it could be worse. And the Browns are going to be 1-5, and there are going to be rumors about Kevin Stefanski swirling. As good as he's been as a head coach, they're starting to come. So I've got the Eagles winning this 27-13.
Yeah, I've also got the Eagles, and it's just they have the better constructed roster right now. They have more weapons. It's hard to stop Saquon Barkley by himself, let alone when you also have to contend with those guys out wide in an A.J. Brown. Like, it's tough on a defense, and Cleveland's defense hasn't been playing particularly well this season. So I'm going to go 37-10. I don't think it's going to be a particularly good performance. Right now, if you're the Browns, like, you're limping to your bye week. And you need to regroup. You need to readjust. You need to refocus. Yeah. Like you said, there are going to be questions, especially around that coaching staff and around Kevin Stefanski and his job because of their play this year. If you're a part of that team, you have to know that. And it's not something that can really be openly talked about in the locker room. You can't openly talk about, okay, well, Deshaun's not giving us the best chance to win, but we're going to play him anyway, because that's something that kills his confidence even more than it already has been. So it's something you got to keep in the back of your head of like, hey, we're not only playing for our jobs, we're playing for our coach's job right now. And hopefully that motivates them to go out and get some better results and put out some better performances. I just don't think it's going to start this week.
And look, at the end of the day, if Deshaun is the guy that the owner wants in a quarterback, not only is he playing the rest of the year, but he's playing the last 2 years of his contract after this too. So at some point, you have to just say, well, we don't have a choice, right? We're going to build around. And I think it's so fascinating. We talk about personal egos in the NFL with owners. If this is coming from Jimmy Haslam, he is putting personal ego and pride above anything else. And I think the NFL is a league where, I mean, again, you're a guy who's played football for a long time. When you know you've made a mistake, the best thing to do in my book, admit it quickly and move on. This roster is too talented to be losing games with this quarterback. And even if you have to eat the albatross contract and bench him, that might be what you have to do, because you're in your Super Bowl window currently, Cleveland. You are in your Super Bowl window. It may not last much longer because you're going to be in cap hell next season no matter what happens. And we'll see. But the Browns are in potential shambles of moving to 1-5, and I don't think it's going to be a big question this week. Let's finish up the podcast on this. By the way, if you've been watching the entire time, thanks again for being with us. We're live tonight at Engine House 39. Had some wonderful food. drank some wonderful drinks. We've talked to a couple of great people along the way, and everyone just about ready to start filing out here at 11 p.m. And I know Jonathan wants to get to bed too. He's got a special announcement, by the way, to come at the end of the show. Let's just wrap up with GM Meadville and maybe look ahead. Want to give, of course, respect to Oil City, give respect to Franklin. There's no guarantee that, it will be GM Meadville in the D10 title game, but assuming that it is, do you see this going differently the next time? How would you see this game going down, and what maybe can these teams add that we didn't necessarily see tonight from them?
As much as Meadville impressed me tonight, and as much as Meadville was able to put up a fight and hold their own against GM, if they match up again, I don't really see it going the same way for one reason. GM's going to open up the playbook from the start of the game. It's going to be deep shots. They're going to throw the ball all over the field. They're going to attack different guys, and they're going to get the ball to their playmakers early because they don't have anything to hold back. At this point, it's a championship on the line. You're not worried about not showing something on tape, which I feel like was a little bit of their passiveness in the first half, and a little bit of their play calling was a tad vanilla in the first half, if I'm being blunt.
Yeah.
I don't think they come out that same way if they match up with this team again. I think it's foot to the pedal to the floor from the opening kickoff, and I think it might get ugly.
Yeah, and, again, I tend to agree with you in terms of GM's offense. I do, though, think for Meadville, if you're looking at any positives to take from this Bulldog team, I think, number one, what you've shown against GM is that you can run the football. They were effective in the middle quarters being able to run the ball, whether it was with Jacoby Thompson. Tymier Phillips had a couple of big plays as well in the running game, and a lot of running backs that they have. Wayne Bradford said it's tough to defend the wing T. You can be prepared for it and face it week in, week out and still not have a good week at some point. So I do think Meadville's got the ability to run the football if they can shorten the game, keep the time of possession on their side, only give GM 3 or 4 possessions in the game, then you give yourself a chance. And we saw that through about 2.5 quarters. Meadville kept the game relatively close. They forced General McLean to drive the football down the field. If you don't give up chunk plays to GM, you've got a shot in this game. Right. And so I think for Meadville, it's all about controlling the clock, making sure you run the football. And if you are going to run spread, make sure you've got more than 3 or 4 play calls with it. I think it's for GM tonight, and maybe Meadville wasn't showing their hand, the Bulldogs didn't run more than 2 or 3 different plays out of the spread formation. They're going to have a couple of different packages that they can run out of it to be able to make plays work. And I am also too curious to see, A.J. Filippo was the throwing quarterback tonight. He's been that throwing quarterback this season. Can you put packages in with maybe both of them on the field to maybe make it a bit more difficult to determine for those teams what exactly you're going to do when you're on the field? Because right now it's a bit too obvious for the Bulldogs. So that's our recap. General McLean beats Meadville 35-27. It's been a wonderful podcast here. We're the last ones here. We may clean up the kitchen just to say thank you to these guys. Before we go, though, we're not a breaking news podcast network, but we do have a breaking news announcement. Are you okay with sharing?
Yeah, I am. Hold on.
All right. So Jonathan Williams is going to get ready. He's got some garments and garb that he's going to be putting on here. As many of you know, Jonathan has been doing the podcast virtually for the last couple of weeks. He's played football his entire life, played at Division I, II, III level, of course, most recently with the Gannon Golden Knights. And he's been on the road with some football tryouts and some football-esque opportunities that he's gotten. He's got a special announcement tonight to make. So, Jonathan, just like anybody else would announce their decision, I leave the floor to you, my friend.
So if anybody's been keeping up with me or anybody, I'm also live off my phone on my social media, but anybody that's been kind of watching my social media, you've seen me traveling around a little bit, especially the last couple of weeks. So I've gone to about 3 or 4 different professional football tryouts, and I am excited to say that I received 2 contract offers and got basically to take my pick of where I wanted to go and who I wanted to play for in the spring. And I am going back home to South Carolina, back 2 hours from home. I'm going to Florence, South Carolina to play arena football for the South Carolina Ravens.
All right. Jonathan Williams.
It's been a journey. Playing semi-pro this past year for the Erie Express. a huge shout out to our owner, Paul Pennington, for giving me the opportunity to play for that franchise and play for that team and kind of develop more film and show what I could do, and definitely helped me progress to another level. So it's been a long journey. If you've been following along since I started in high school, you probably didn't expect any of this to this point. So I'm going to try to keep taking it as far as I can take it. So
well, man,
shout out to y'all. Thanks to the pod, and shout out to you guys too, because you guys have been really supportive. So,
well, first of all,
y'all.
man, congratulations to you. I mean, to be able to continue your career through this, and I mean, we see how many people do it for a year or two, and then don't continue it anymore. I think it's admirable that you've been able to get to this point, and the transfers that you've had, right? I mean, you have gone through the gauntlet of the journey of college football. That, I mean, you've traded yourself 3 or 4 times to different universities. I know that South Carolina is really close to home for you. I'm sure the family who's probably watching either on our network or others are probably excited to hear the news. But just want to wish you congratulations. I know you got a couple months left with us to get to do some more pods, but I know this is the dream for you. And I think for anybody out there, living your dream is the most important thing. And we know you're going to do great things back in the South and just continuing your great journey. So congrats, man. It's been great having you on. Gonna miss you like hell. I don't know anybody maybe outside of Mr. Bradford who has the analysis and the insight that this man has, but you've been awesome, man. And for the next few months that we've got you around, we'd love to keep things going with you, but again, congratulations, and I know it's a super exciting moment for you.
Yeah, it's really exciting for me, but hey, man, like you said, I still got a couple months here, and it's some big things coming for this podcast in the next few months, and I'm excited to be a part of that. Not leaving you guys high and dry. We're gonna build this thing to something great. So
and we have our Carolina Panthers beat reporter. He doesn't know that yet, but whenever we continue along with our podcast, he's going to have to join us via Zoom to talk about what Dalton's Bryce Young are doing over the course of the next few years. Speaking of big things, we got a big episode coming up tomorrow. Jonathan, myself, Wayne Bradford, Nick Artman are all going to be on our pod tomorrow. It's 10 o'clock. YouTube, X, Facebook, Twitch, all of our streaming platforms. We'll be talking high school football, Week 8 reactions, the Fairview Quarry game, as well as some other big games happening around the region, Mercier, Prep, Iroquois, and the lot. So make sure to join us tomorrow, 10 o'clock, on our streaming platforms, as is customary on a Friday night. We want to give a big shout-out again and a big thanks to Engine House 39 for, A, letting us infiltrate their place, and B, serving us up some great food. I'll tell you what, guys, I know we didn't need all the food. It's going to be gone within 5 minutes of the show ending because it is just unbelievable to die for. And whether you're in the Edinboro area or whether you're just passing on by, make sure to stop in at Engine House 39 and get some of the great food that they have. And we hope to be back here as well with a couple more episodes maybe in the near future. But great stuff tonight from Engine House. And, again, technical issues be damned. I think it was a pretty sweet episode tonight and a really good way to kickstart the weekend.
Yeah, man, it's always fun when we get to do the show from different locations and just kind of merge with the community a little bit and bond with the community. It's always fun, and we've been showing a lot of love since we started this podcast, and we're going to try to show it back as well as we can. So thanks to Engine House 39 once again for hosting us and letting us crash the place. And I live about 20 minutes away. I will definitely be back. So,
well, from all of us here at Engine House 39, today on this Thursday at 11:11, and we still got a great stream going strong. So again, night, day, midnight, local sports, they matter. We know they matter, and we're just glad that you're a part of this journey with us, because without you, the viewer, we wouldn't be here, and we wouldn't be the crazy people talking about high school sports and college sports and the NFL at large. We'll see you all tomorrow night at 10. Until then, get some sleep, enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and get ready for high school football tomorrow. Going to be an awesome weekend ahead. New episode tomorrow night at 10.